Ancient Egyptian Gods and Goddesses. Ra was the Egyptian god of the sun. He was the father of the Egyptian gods and was considered the most important Egyptian god. Ra appears as a human with the head of a falcon or a hawk to represent his role as god of the sun, or the head of a ram to represent his role as a god of the underworld. He is often shown with an ankh, which symbolized eternal life, and a sun on his head, called the solar disk. Ra's daughter was the goddess Sekhmet. Sekhmet was the goddess of war. She is pictured as a woman with the head of a lion, and sometimes she is also shown with the sun on her head, like her father Ra. She wears a red dress, symbolizing blood. According to myth, Sekhmet also had healing powers. Another of Ra's daughters was the goddess Ma'at. She was the goddess of the law and truth, as well as of morality. She is pictured as a woman, sometimes with wings on her arms. Ma'at is also shown with a feather on her head, known as the feather of truth. This feather plays an important role in the judgment of the dead before they are allowed to enter the afterlife. The feather of truth on her head is what can differentiate Ma'at from another sometimes winged goddess, Isis. Isis was considered one of the most important Egyptian gods. She was the goddess of many things, among them fertility, motherhood, and healing. She was the wife of Osiris and was considered the mother of the Egyptian pharaohs. Isis is often shown with a crown shaped like a throne on her head and holding an ankh symbol. She is often pictured with wings on her arms, which represent protection. Osiris was the god of death, the underworld, and the afterlife. He was Isis's husband. Osiris is pictured like a mummy with a white gown. Sometimes he is pictured with green skin. He wears a cone-shaped crown, called an atef crown, and holds two tools, called a crook and flail, which Egyptian pharaohs carried as well. They stand for kingship and power. Osiris and Isis had a son, Horus. Horus was the god of the sky and the god of war. Similarly to Ra, Horus is pictured as a man with a falcon's head. The similarities between them were so significant that in later Egyptian dynasties they were merged into the same god. Unlike Ra, Horus is shown wearing what is known as a double crown, the kind of crown that the Egyptian pharaohs wore. According to myth, Horus lost an eye during a battle over Egyptian rule, and because of this, his symbol is an eye, called the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus symbolizes protection. Another of Osiris's sons, from a different mother, was Anubis. Anubis was also a god of the dead, the afterlife, and mummification. Unlike Osiris with a falcon head, Anubis is pictured with the black head of a jackal. According to myth, Anubis would decide whether the dead could enter the afterlife by weighing their hearts against Ma'at's feather of truth. Anubis is sometimes shown holding what is called a waz scepter. This is a long stick with a top shaped like an animal head. This waz scepter symbolized power. Thoth was the Egyptian god of the moon, knowledge, and writing. He was in charge of inventing the hieroglyphic writing and its use. Thoth is pictured as a man with the head of an ibis. The ibis is a bird that lives in the Middle East, where Egypt is, and has a long curved beak. Thoth is often shown holding or writing with a reed pen on a writing tablet. Ancient Egyptian Gods and Goddesses.